Hi, everyone. Good morning. Happy Sunday. A blessed Sunday to everyone. And we are very happy again to have our viewers. We now have what we call as our loyal viewers because in the comment I am seeing familiar faces and familiar accounts. They have been with me yesterday over at empowerED Edu lectures which live streams exclusively in YouTube. Now they are here. You guys are here again for our Empower Ed live discussion. So you know the drill. Every Empower Ed live discussion, we don't do workshops. We don't know the how-to things. Instead, we focus on the principles, on the big ideas, and even questions and issues behind what is going to happen or on what is going to happen across the country, across the globe in terms of education at this time of the pandemic. So, a week ago, we've been doing a lot of live discussions. We did some introductions on distance education, how to become an effective teacher. And in the evaluation that is being given to you to answer at the end of the show, we asked for topics. And one of the most requested topics from our viewers, which you have given me or submitted to me, is actually the big puzzle. That's why we're entitling it the big puzzle. We are all buzzed and we are all thinking, how do we teach laboratory courses? How do we do science, which will require hands-on experiment? How do we teach business subject so that it's not just all conceptual understanding that is being drilled in our students? How do we do innovation? I think that's the biggest question right now. How do we do innovation? And I am very happy to welcome our panel of experts and a very special guest, a student who will share to us his experience of continuing his passion for robotics, for programming at this time of the pandemic, even when he is locked down with his family in his home. All right, so just a few reminders. Some of you are asking again, where are my certificate? All certificates have been given, have been sent out through the email that you have submitted in the evaluation. If you have not received any certificate yet, that means that the email that you have submitted to us has been misspelled, which means the email bounced back. Okay, it bounced back to us. So please make sure that you do again the evaluation and check the spelling of your email addresses. That's very, very important. So I hope that you were able to say your Sunday prayer, attended maybe if it's allowed in your community, your Sunday worship or your Sunday mass. This will be a very good discussion, and I hope that you get to interact and participate actively with us. All right, so I'm just gonna welcome our guest so that we can have our much awaited discussion. So I'm gonna start with adding everyone in the screen. All right. So these are the guests that we will be having for this discussion right now. So you see four experts here, teachers ranging from the grade school until the higher ed. So let me just start with Miss Winnie Diola. Miss Winnie Diola, can you just say hi? Right. So
Hi everyone, good
yes.
morning.
If you've been following Empower Ed, Winnie is a familiar face. She's a friend, a very close friend, and she's been very supportive of Empower Ed. She talked about blended learning. Now we have her to talk about teaching science in distance education, especially in the grade school. Together with Winnie is a Metrobank Outstanding Teacher awardee. Together with her is another awardee, Fernandez. Who hails from Leyte. He's a public school teacher, senior
Yes.
high school. So he's in charge of ADM and research in his school in Leyte. Palo National High School. Is that correct, Ernani?
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Ernani, can you say hi to
Hello to
our
all the
audience?
viewers of our
All right. So we're very happy to
more
have you
especially to
here.
public school teachers for
Yes.
watching.
And then we have here, all the way from Singapore, he's the CEO and co-founder of Reactor School, one of the most amazing schools that has a program on helping students build their own business from zero, from their passion. It's not zero; it's really from their passion at what they like to do. He's a very good friend of mine from Singapore, Rusydi, Khairul Rusydi. Hi,
Hi
Rusydi.
everyone. Thanks so much for
I
having
hope
me online today.
I hope that you are safe back in Singapore. And of course, completing the panel of expert is Professor Dr. Michael Joseph Diño. Dr. Diño his expertise is on research. He's the director of research development and innovation center at the Our Lady of Fatima University. And aside from EdTech, he is also a nurse, right? And aside from being an expert, he is a nurse. He is an Apple District
Wow.
educator, and I hope he gets to share to us how we will do distance education for laboratory courses like in higher ed or even in senior high school. So we're very excited. Hi, Dr. Dino. Hi, MJ.
Thank you for the invitation, Jim, and hello, everyone.
All right. And of course, later on, we will have a very special discussion. All the discussions that we have right now is really for our students. So I got to call Angel Kenyang. I met Angel. He's a student. Um, his how would you describe that? His passion, his expertise is really on robotics, and I've seen him build his own robots and win competitions not just locally but even internationally. So let's get to hear from Angel how he likes to do innovation and STEM in distance education from the perspective of a student. Hi, Angel.
Hi.
All right. So, Angel, I hope that you're safe. We're gonna remove you from the screen for now. Angel will wait for his part. Instead, we will focus on how we can help our teachers. So, Angel, just sit and relax and wait for your part because we are looking forward. All right. So, bye,
Yes,
Angel.
see you later.
All right. So, first things first, can you tell us something about what you're doing in your school right now at this time of the pandemic, so that they get our audience get to hear from you? Let's start with from Singapore first. We're very much interested to listen on how Singapore is doing at this time of the pandemic.
Okay, got it. Hi everyone, and thanks, Sir Jim, for having me online today. So I'll share for both the public sector schools in Singapore as well as for Reactor School. For the public schools in Singapore, we've started doing half-half. So basically, 1 week the students are going to school, another week we do distance learning at home. For students who are currently having their final year exams this year, they continue working from school, so they go to school. And for students who have some academic difficulties, for example, they're allowed to go back to school as well. So we're doing half-half in the public schools. For Reactor School, we work with 85 high schools and universities across Southeast Asia. And the biggest change we've done is that we've shifted everything online. So the mentoring with the entrepreneurs are done online. The pitch days are done online. And later I've got some photos to share with the audience on how we've been making this transition.
Have you started school, or are you or on a break right now in Singapore?
Some schools have started. What happened was that we swapped the summer holidays and we brought it 1 month earlier.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's what our Ministry of Education did. So some of the schools have already just started school, literally.
All right. Thank you, Rusydi. I know that Winnie School has started with their online distance
Yes.
learning. Winnie, how's everything? Can you share to us a bit
Um,
of your experience right now?
sure. So we started last June 29, and we are in pure online distance learning environment from pre-kinder to senior high school. And as of now, we're on our third week, and so far so good. The teachers are excited, and at the same time, we're enjoying. We don't want to see these changes as challenges, but instead, these are all opportunities for us to learn new things. Teachers are enjoying to do that. It's like they are now vloggers. because we need to provide recorded videos, content creation, curation are being done by our teachers to supplement the asynchronous instruction of our students.
All right. Very exciting to hear about how your teachers in your school are really trying new things right now. I think that's a common experience of a lot of teachers right now. We're basically
Yes.
trying new things. So thank you, Winnie, for a short sharing of how you are. Ernani, how's the preparation going?
Actually, I would like to answer in the context of public school, of course, in the Department of Education. Teachers are actually all busy, aside from the materials which will be provided by the Department of Education. In my school, in National High School, of course, we need to also prepare an intervention to that. So all teachers in my school are also busy preparing our own set of learning activities, and we focus more on modular distance learning because in my school or even in public school, not all can have that technology based learning. So we have this learning activities, and we are now in the third week of July, and most probably we will submit it to our school principal for reproduction.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So that's sprint based. That's sprint based modular
Yeah,
uh,
that's great base. Yeah.
distance education. All right. That's a very
Yes.
good. That's a very good context that you brought up, because we also, while we know that there's a lot of talk about online distance, distance learning technology, supported distance education. We also want to hear the
Yes.
thoughts of everyone about, what if they cannot go online? What if they're doing print based? How do we enable teaching of very hands-on skills? So let's go to that challenge later. Dr. Dino, how is higher ed coping with the pandemic?
Thank you, Jim. We're actually doing great. So at Our Lady of Fatima University, as you all know, we have 6 campuses all over the Philippines, and we offer all levels of programs from preschool, basic ed to undergraduate and graduate degrees, including SHS. So currently, we're implementing a very unique model across all levels. We call it the Flex, or the Fatima Learning Experience, and we just completed our SOST, or Special Online Summer Term. So in addition to that, we're doing a lot of research to support our evidence-based and data-based policy development. And we're also supporting innovators in developing their ideas, patent and all, even during the pandemic.
Mm. That's very interesting. I don't know. Just to be honest, I don't know much about what's happening in higher ed, right? I feel
Mm.
like in higher ed there are a lot of things. We have independent learners, older learners, and I just want to look into how, like in higher ed, that is being tapped to enable more independent learning. So let's go to our first talk. I mean, we have our general question. The very question that we want to answer is, how do we teach STEM? How do we teach innovation? How do we teach business subjects at this time of the pandemic, when teachers really don't know what to do? Like, for example, in print-based distance education, how do you enable that? The biggest challenge really is, I've heard from teachers that, and some schools, and I would even think that maybe let's just start first with the conceptual part, because it's hard to do the hands-on part. So let me start with Winnie. So even if I direct this to Winnie, you can chime in if you have thoughts. Winnie is a science teacher. We know how experiments are very, very important in science. So Winnie, how do we make sure that there are still experiments or hands-on? How do we enable those things?
Okay. To answer that question, allow me to share what we are doing in our school. So we all know, to let you know, we're on our 8th year of doing the blended learning. It's unmuted. Okay. So we're on our 8th year of doing the blended learning approach. So the teachers are so used to coming up with seamless integration of the use of technology and face-to-face interaction with our students. Now, if your school, so if we went to pure online distance learning, also if your school will implement ODL also, it's very important to have clear and specific plans for both synchronous and asynchronous instruction. So we want to give emphasis on developing science process skills and basic scientific method. These things are very important for elementary students. And at the same time, these are the skills that our students need to accomplish their tasks, their projects, and experiments. So that means we offer active learning experiences during the synchronous sessions, where students should demonstrate the skills of inferring, comparing, analyzing data, communicating data, evaluating possible solutions. They have the frequent opportunities to ask questions, answer questions, and defend their answers. And it's also the time that the students need to have the opportunity to clarify.
Winnie, Winnie has paused. But what I'm getting from Winnie is that they make use of synchronous activities, right? Synchronous, like, I think that's video conferencing, that where teacher can do the experiment in front of them. I've heard of simulations also in doing experiment. But I just want to bring this out. What if they're doing, they cannot go online, like print based? How do we enable those kinds of, I for one love to do experiments, right? I for one love to do experiments, and I feel like science is not the same when we cannot do experiment, like, because the laboratory is in school. So is it possible to do some kind of experiments even in distance education when the teacher is not there? Any thoughts?
Hello, Jim.
That is
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Dr. Dino,
Yeah.
and then
Actually, sure. Actually, that is possible because we can use a lot of remote available resources available at homes. So there are lots of technology online options that we can adopt. So, for example, at the case of Our Lady of Fatima University, we offer both online and the use of the achiever packets or the learning packets. So, in our case, for example, in the higher ed, we use Pearson MyLab, and for K-12, we use Labster. So it's also interesting to note that some experiments may also use common household items such as salt, magnets, and vinegar. And we also use flip grid and elevator pitches to check learners' understanding as far as these procedures are concerned.
So very interesting. There's a combination of, if the students can access online resources at home, they can do that on their own, right?
Yeah.
So they can do independent experiments. But if they cannot, like if they don't have access, there are learning packets. I think those could be printed also.
Yes.
And does that mean that the experiment is really there, and you're asking the students to do that on their own?
Yeah, we actually offer different resources based on your selection during enrollment. So, for example, if
Mm.
you chose the online, so all the modules are actually uploaded in our learning management system or the Canvas. But if you don't have, for example, internet connection, as far as your area is concerned, so you can opt in. You can actually choose the learning packet. So we call it the Achievers packets, and this is a package that contains the modules every 2 weeks, including some of the materials that they will be using.
Wow. Um, how I just love the idea that you're giving students the choice. So when they enroll, so does that mean then that your school does multiple modalities at the same time?
Yes, we're actually doing that, and we tag this as the Flex or the Fatima Learning Experience because we do understand that the Philippines is actually a third world country. So we are a developing country, and one of the challenges that we're experiencing, not only for private schools or universities, but of course in public schools as well, is the lack of internet connection, internet competence, and ability for some students to get their devices. So in my university, we are acknowledging the differences of our learners. So we are preparing several options that will best fit their needs, because our mission and vision is to improve management. So we are staying true to our mission and vision to give the best for our learners, whatever capacities that they will have for their learning.
Right, Dr. Dino, I love the idea really of the school accommodating everyone. Just Winnie is back, just to keep Winnie updated. We asked further. Thank you for sharing, Winnie, synchronous experience. Our discussion a while ago went to what if they cannot go online. Dr. Dino mentioned about, they can do asynchronous activities, that they can do experiments on their own, and they can do it online, through online resources, or through the materials that they have at home. Can I just poke further on that kind of mindset? Because I think that, we've been very stuck with the idea that we can only do experiments inside the lab, right? So, Winnie, before I go to you, Ernani wanted to say something a while ago.
Yeah, the conceptual lessons that we will give to our students, especially in science, the part of the public school students that is actually difficult. But in our school, we don't just focus on giving print-based materials, because teachers are also instructed to prepare video materials. We plan that we will view it online, because there are also some students in Leyte that have this internet or technology. So it is not, we are not forcing students to have their own technology at home or devices at home, but we give options also to our students. They can view recorded video presentations of the teachers. At the same time, we have even have the print-based materials. It is in details, so there will be no problem at all.
So I think it's the same format. I think it's the same idea also. It's just basically accommodating the learners. So whatever access they have, I think that's a very, very good idea. The idea of inclusivity, accessibility is there. We go back to you. We're very much interested. Do you have some examples of, maybe I want to call this home-based experiments? Because when I was young, I did some, mixing a lot of things. I did some mixing, and then my parents got scolded me for mixing a lot of things or experimenting with a lot of things. But Winnie, what are some lessons that maybe they can do, home-based experiments that are safe? I think the keyword there may be safety. Yeah, Winnie.
Okay. So first, I would like to, I agree with Sir Ernani. I really like the idea of empowering the students with a voice and choice. It's not because that we feel that we need to give the concepts to the students, but it's also important that we give them the options. If they have the opportunity to make use of technology, let them use. Give them the opportunities to explore with the use of technology. If they are limited by the constraints of the technology, then provide them the home-based activities. So for us, simple experiments and hands-on activities we prepare are designed for asynchronous sessions. So that means we don't have the live doing of experiments or active working on the project, doing it on live stream or in synchronous session. We prepare weekly learning guides for our students, and included in the weekly learning guide are the clear instructions and other guidelines. If adult supervision will be needed, then we instruct them that they will be performing activities with the help of their parents. So last week, I asked my students to perform a simple experiment. We're talking about weathering and erosion. So we give them the instructions, and then instead of using hammer or rock, we make use of cookies. So mga Oreo cookies. So we ask the students to see the changes that will happen when you shake, when you pound it. So it's the same thing. So it's more on really applying or using the materials that can be found in their own homes. So when we had our mixtures last term, and we were affected by the Taal volcano activities, we asked their students to have their mixtures instead of asking them some materials that we usually do inside the lab. We asked them to look for some fruits. And then, as I mentioned, we're not after about the results. We're not after with the success of the results in the experiments, but we are after the process on how the students are doing things. So whether they fail or they succeed in doing the experiments, if they can show to the teacher and they can explain to their classmates how they were able to come up with the results, I think that's the one that we really need to give emphasis and importance in the time of in online distance learning environment. So aside from that, I like that Sir MJ mentioned about use of technology, because I don't want to limit my students. So aside from providing this hands-on experiments, we give them virtual and augmented reality activities, simulations, right? Online lab simulations that will allow the students to really be engaged with the concepts that we teach them.
Wonderful answer and wonderful examples, Winnie. I love that. I just want to connect it with what Dr. Dino has mentioned a while ago. The idea of making them understand what they're doing, the process
Yes.
that they are undergoing. I think we've been really, as I think this as a commentary, as an education system, we're very much focused on the product, on what is
Yeah.
being submitted, that we forget that the process itself is very important. Dr. Dino, I just want to go back to you because I have a question here that is very much related with my next question to you. Roland Palacio Conanan asks, how about those subjects in nursing, MT, pharma, rad tech that needs laboratory skills? I think it's the same. It's the same big idea now. There are certain laboratory skills that needs to be done, that needs to be learned. How do we answer those challenge, Dr. Dino?
Yes, that's a very interesting question. But of course, I would like to agree with Winnie 101% with that. So we don't look at the output, but we look at the process. So basically, let's go back to the theoretical understanding of how learning will work. No, so normally during in-person classes, we actually look for three dimensions. So traditionally, we look for three dimensions: the knowledge, the skills, and the attitude. And we consider laboratory courses as mostly focused on skills, right? So we cannot adopt this fully because of the limitation of physical presence during this pandemic. So according to literature's research, no, so we rather focus on the three R's, or what you call the student reasoning, student responsibility, and resourcefulness. And if we can connect that with what Winnie have mentioned, so we really need to focus on the process and the outcome of what they have learned from that particular procedure. So with regards to the question related to, for example, higher ed, so we do understand that in higher education, we really need special skills in the performance of professional tasks. So again, so we really need to focus more on reasoning, responsibility, and resourcefulness instead of the usual knowledge, skills, and attitude. So in the higher education, for example, in the College of Nursing, what we're doing is that we're about to implement this flip grid technology wherein we can demonstrate some skills, and the student can also demonstrate their skills that will serve as their return demonstration. Okay, and the keyword here would be safety also, because there are some procedures that we cannot perform. So, for example, at the confines of our home. So, for that, we are sticking to what we call online resources. And for the health sciences, we are adopting this what we call the Pearson My Lab, because it utilizes some of the procedures that being utilized by health professionals. But of course, for most of the procedures or half of the procedures can be done online. So for example, for nursing, we have bed making and they have beds at their home. We do hand washing, and hand washing can be performed in terms of surgeries, suturing. So we have, of course, items at home that we can also use, or maybe the students can also acquire it online, which is available for delivery, especially for our medical students. So there are lots of possibilities. So the best advice would be to look for the better fit, because our students might be different from your students. So before we implement a certain intervention, we make sure that we are doing a pilot research for that to make it fitted to the needs of our students.
You know what? I'm really I don't know much about those subjects, laboratory. I'm just echoing the questions, but I'm very interested with what you mentioned about there are things that we can do, there are things that we cannot do, right?
Yeah.
In this,
Yes.
so in the, for that, for example, I'm just thinking one of the questions that I had is, Sir Jim, will you will you be confident in undergoing a surgery for a person who studied in distance education? I mean, the idea that we are not very comfortable also with, those kinds of, maybe we have professionals and they need to master their skills. Dr. MJ, I don't know how you're gonna do that also, uh,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm
There's
very
actually lots of
yeah.
questions. These are the questions that I can see from the social networking sites, and this is really a valid question, right?
Yeah. But I'm very thankful for sharing that. I think that's the biggest takeaway that I'm getting right now. There are things that we can do at home, which can, like, for example, your keyword return demonstration. I think that is one way of telling us that maybe our assessments in distance education is a demonstration of all the skills that we want them
Yes,
to learn, right?
Yes.
that's true.
So
Yes.
thank you for bringing that out. In terms of skills, I want to go to Rusydi and Ernani. Rushdi and Arnani, they're very much focused on business, on and innovation. And Arnani, in terms of assessment, Dr. Diño mentioned about return demonstration. I think that's very applicable. That's very important for their courses. For Arnani, on the business side, ABM, accounting business. That's correct, right? Accounting business and what's management strand. How do we do assessments there? I know that Ernani has been talking about project-based learning. So how are you trying to figure this out, Ernani?
Man, yes. Okay, for this time of pandemic, the use of project-based learning approach, we've been doing that even before the pandemic time. So that it is a flexible learning in which self-directed learning, learner-centered approach, in which we allow students to work on it with few guidance from the teachers. So the only challenge now is how are we going to give assessment to our students? Because in Department of Education, in public school, we have written work, performance tasks, and quarterly assessment. So we agree that in written work or project-based learning, we will use the knowledge level approach. Okay, normally the identification, matching type, or multiple choice assessment for written work. But for performance assessment or performance task assessment, we have to give them the project-based learning. It's so sad that not all public school teachers are aware of this learning approach. That's why if there are public school teacher who are listening right now, okay, or who are watching right now, they can still learn more about project-based learning in YouTube, self-upgrade. And then I also have this 21st century learning design of Microsoft, in which I combine the idea of 21st century learning design and project-based learning. So we come up with this 21st century learning activity. In a 21st century learning activity, first we give them the rubric on how they will be graded. And then, of course, there is an output. Like, for instance, in organization and management, in which we focus more on the functions of management, like planning, organizing, etc. When I was in college, the style of our professor is just to memorize the functions of management. But maybe after 2 or 3 weeks, I forgot all of those definitions. So I have this a different strategy in which students need to apply the functions and management in making an event. So normally it is done in group. However, since we are in pandemic, we will give them the idea on how to prepare an event plan or a management plan or any activity that they can do at home. Contextualizing what can they do best in their community. And then for accounting, we still need give them the concept on how to compute. Okay, then a struggle on maybe first or 2 weeks. And after that, we can give them the activity, the learning activities that students can do more on and analysis of the financial statements. And the 21st century learning design will help the students to acquire not just a specific skill in lesson, but of course the 21st skills as critical thinking and problem solving skill. So that's what we do now in public school, especially in my school, Palo National High School.
I love that there is a transition from the traditional assessment, and I'm very much happy to hear about the transition that is happening. I think project-based learning has been really one of the best way to really assess or to be part of the taking of the snapshot. Like an assessment should be, we want to see a full album. That's how I call it, a full album of the capacity of the students. And the quizzes and the long tests are just snapshots. And if we want to put project-based learning, then we were able to target and to really say that our students were able to do this and that, especially for subjects that require a lot of skills to be demonstrated. And I love that Ernani is pointing this out, that project-based learning, PBL, it has been there all along. Maybe this is the time for us to take a look
Yes.
at this, especially when we're doing distance education. Because in distance education, the main way to assess a student is to actually ask the students to perform or to create something. So you have a return demonstration by Dr. Diño and Winnie, and then you have project-based learning. I just want to combine all of this and throw it to Rusydi, because this is his line of expertise, putting everything together. The idea of innovation, the idea of putting business innovation STEM together. Rusydi, can you give us a glimpse of how you have coped with the pandemic and in your own program also?
Sure thing. Thanks so much, Sir Jim. I know today is not about a workshop, but I have some slides that I want to share with the audience. It's mostly just photographs. So let me just get that out. So just a bit of a background about Reactor. We run entrepreneurship and innovation programs for students aged 13 to 24. We run a differentiated curriculum. So we've got it at junior high school, senior high school, all the way to college. And we work with schools and universities all around Southeast Asia to deliver on these education outcomes. And we're now working with 85 schools all around the region. So I'd like to share a bit about what we've done with regard to the transition. So we've run all our programs completely online right now because we've got students in Indonesia, students in Vietnam, and we can't fly there, and we've got to conduct it online. So just a bit of background myself. I used to be from Enterprise Singapore, so that's a statutory board that looks at small and medium enterprise development. So a lot of my work has been helping with small companies and helping them to scale up. So now we're bringing that entrepreneurship education to high schools and to universities. So previously, before the pandemic, we had a lot of instructor-led programming where you've got a trainer or an entrepreneur, leading the class at the front of the class. But now we're currently shifting to things completely done online. This is an example of an activity that we did where we got the students to research up on some of the other entrepreneurs that are in Singapore and to find out what career decisions they previously made. So in this activity, the students, went onto Padlet and they went to click through on these entrepreneurs' LinkedIn profiles and to understand what career decisions they made from their internships all the way to their current job as entrepreneurs, to understand what experiences and learning that they got along the way. So Padlet was one of the tools that we used. We used a lot of digital whiteboarding like Miro. Sometimes the school uses Canvas, so we work with the school to incorporate all these things onto Canvas as well. It really depends, and we're basically able to customize it, whether it's an Apple school or Google school, so on and so forth. One of the challenges that we faced was that sometimes the students may not have a device at home, right? But even if they have a mobile phone, they can still tune in because we have a mix of both asynchronous and synchronous activities. So previously, before, for example, the students would do some sort of return demonstration where they would have to pitch to a panel of investors and entrepreneurs. So we invite them into the classroom, but now we're completely running it online. So the students are able to pitch their startup ideas online over Zoom, and the rest of the class will listen in. And one of the great advantages of this actually is that we now are able to record the entire session. So we're able to collect artifacts of learning. Previously, it will be a bit more difficult, but now very clearly you can see whether the student's able to demonstrate the KSAs through the presentation that they've done. So this was an idea by one of our students. She's basically from a family of fishmongers, and there's a lot of excess fish that her parents can't sell. So she's now building a business to sell the leftover fish through house delivery, right? So increases income for her family business. This is another student team that graduated. It's called Cave. It's a fintech company that they're trying to build. So in this case here, they're doing something called a demo or a demonstration, where they show you how the interface of their product works. So this is very popular when it comes to startup weekends or hackathons, where you have to demonstrate how your product or how your service works to the audience. And this is another startup that graduated from a program. It's called Coffee Box. It's a subscription for coffee. So it's a designer coffee that's sent directly to your home. So you let them know what your coffee interests are, and then they put together a special pack. And then sometimes they send you a surprise pack, so you don't know what you're going to get. So it's about coffee discovery, right? So the students are actually encouraged to put together all these websites, all these mobile apps, and pick up the digital skills along the way. Like we mentioned to them, what's more important is the process itself. Remarks are more important than marks. So the remarks that you get from the entrepreneurs, the remarks that you get from the investors, they'll help you to improve, because it's really hard to be an entrepreneur overnight. And this is another team from Vietnam. What they built was a mobile app to help high school students to discover career options. Because in Vietnam, a lot of high school students don't have access to career guidance activities, right? So they're trying to digitalize that and to make it more equitable. Yeah, so very quickly, this is how our program works. Our students log in online from the safety of home. They can do it via laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. We have a mix of challenges, which are asynchronous activities, and synchronous, I would call mini lectures. So the mini lectures are no more than 15 minutes at once, because sometimes the students have a lot of difficulties coming online. The most important thing is that students need to have something called focus time. So that's 90 minutes of uninterrupted time where they work with their teams to work on their projects. And what we do throughout the entire program is that we get the students to use some of the digital tools that startups use. So things like Slack, Trello, Pipedrive, for example. These are actual tools that startups use. It's to train them for a virtual internship in a startup after they graduated, or if they want to build a startup of their own. Yeah, so that's the end of my sharing. My email is here, rusydi@reactor.school. If anyone would like the deck of slides, or alternatively, if you'd like me to send you more information, feel free to do so. Thanks so much, Sir Jim. Over to you if you have anything that you'd like me to elaborate a bit more about.
I love that you presented the process that you're doing right now. There's a guidance. I think for Ernani and Rusydi, my biggest question right now is, how do we guide them even if they are at home? Right? I think that's the biggest one of the puzzles that we want to answer also, or want to look at. If we want them to do this, how do we enable like guidance for them? I think it's very interesting. It's because we are making them do something like a project in the end. So what are the ways of feedback giving? I think iterations are very important. How do we enable feedback giving when they're doing their projects independently, right, at home?
Right. So one of the things that we do is that we use a technique called make learning visible. So any work that the students do, they would do it, for example, on Google Slides or Miro, and we can see them working on their work live. So what our facilitators do is that we jump in and jump out with every single team, and we see whether they're on the right track. and then we comment along the way, right? So that's one thing that we do. The second thing that we have is that we use a platform called Discord. So Discord is a platform that was built for gamers, right? But we utilize that for education instead because it can have very high bandwidth. So you can have synchronous chats within your teams, and that's when our facilitators will go team by team to give them feedback on their project.
Rusydi, was that Discord? As in the
Discord,
gaming Discord?
that's right.
Oh, all right, okay. Ernani, so we've heard from Rusydi, technology really makes a difference. If it offers us a way to communicate with our students, give feedback to them about their work. Ernani, how can we do this when we have problems in terms of access? And I think Ernani
Yeah,
cannot hear
sir.
us.
Jim, can you repeat your question?
All right. If we're doing print based, what are
Hello, Jim.
like
Can you repeat your question? I wasn't able to hear you.
all right. So if we are doing print based distance education,
Yeah.
how do we mitigate the part when students and teachers
Okay.
need to communicate with each other, right? In terms of feedback giving, because Rishidi mentioned that in doing these kinds of projects, they need feedback, right, from
Yeah.
experts
Okay.
because they need to know. So how do we do that in our case? Like maybe some of thoughts.
Yeah. In our case, even if we have this modular distance learning mode for our students, we will still use the technology, like for instance, their cell phone, their messenger, okay, to communicate with the teachers. Students are required to communicate with teachers on the time, like for instance, 8 to 5 only. Beyond that, because teachers also have their own life at home, so that is also one way that we can track that students are working with the activity. And then one of the guidelines set by school is to submit the output weekly by the parents, and then with journal on how they perform the activity. And then through that, we can have our feedback to our students. And most likely, in our case here in Leyte, they don't have that facility at home or the technology, but they can reach us through Messenger because of the free data of the students. So we will not concentrate or focus more on modular distance learning, but it is actually a blended learning still because of party technology use. That's why, for me, giving feedback to students is really important, especially in my subject, which is research. Okay, this is one style that I will do for this school year, and I hope Sir Dino will agree with me. We normally allow or require students to use 20 literature for research. Okay, and and for senior high school, we normally group them. Okay, for this pandemic time, this will be an individual research, but we will provide all the journals. Like for instance, the topic is about technology. So we will give 20 journals about technology, and students will read all those journals and come up with another research. So this is a public school. They don't have that internet connection at home. They cannot go out to go to the library and have their research. So what we will do is to provide all the journals for them and come up with new ideas from the journals. Then from there, I will check each of the output from part of the research, then give feedback afterwards. It's
So
really hard, but
it's really a
yeah,
matter of trying to look for workarounds at this time for the limitations that
yes,
we have,
yes.
right? So it really
That
pays
is why,
off when we look at the different modalities. Like for example, Ernani mentioned we're gonna do print based, but we're gonna utilize cell phones. free data in Messenger to give feedback. I think it's really important. I think what we have recognized right now is it's important that there's a communication line between the teacher and the student, right? So, any other thoughts before we proceed to the last questions that we have?
Maybe just one from me.
For,
Oh, Winnie, would you like go first? Go for it. Yeah.
no, no, it's okay. It's okay. Go.
Okay. So
You do it first.
one of the techniques that we use is that we work on ecosystems that students are already familiar with. Like sometimes when we're doing journaling, we ask our students to submit their journals through Instagram because they all use Instagram and they're very used to doing vlogs, right? Discord, is something that a lot of student gamers use. So it's trying to find where the students are and adapting around them.
Okay. So it's really much understanding the context, right? So
Yeah.
communicating context. Winnie, you wanted to say something a while ago?
Yeah, yes, I just want to agree with Sir Ernani and Rusydi because you mentioned about giving the students the option. When we ask our students to come up with their reflection log, they do it weekly. We want to make sure that we give them the choice. You want to present your reflection through a video recording, you want it a podcast, you want it written, then we allow all these things as long as we understand, we see and get the idea on how you are learning on your own. As we focus on the self-directed learning, we want to make sure that the students become involved in what they do. They become engaged because I saw in the one of the comments it's really difficult to engage our students. But if the students will see the relevance of what they are learning in the virtually or during online learning and the things that are really happening at home, then they feel the connection. So they become connected not only to the teachers but also to the content, and then they get to become engaged also on the things that they do outside school. So I think that's good.
Wonderful answer, Winnie. Dr. Dino?
Yes, I think 1 or 2 hours is not enough to give all the advices. But I think I just want to share this finale thoughts from me. So whenever we implement a certain intervention or technology, this type of the pandemic, so I think we need to consider three important things. First is people, second is process, and third would be product. People who are our client, who are our students, and it also includes an understanding on the capacity of our teachers because we need to prepare them for the upcoming school year. So I think we need to consider that people is one of the most important component uh, for any intervention. Just like what Steve Jobs said, technology is nothing. What is important is that you have
Yes,
faith in people, that they're basically good and smart. And if you give them tools, they'll do wonderful things with them. Second would be the process. Administrators, school leaders should develop a certain procedure or a clear instructions on how we can go about this particular approach. And last would be the product. What would be the necessary skills? Of course, we have the objectives and the key performance that we want our students to learn at the end of the class. What are the things or the capstones that we want them to produce at the end of the semester? So I think people, process, product is very much important. And to make it more impactful, we also need to ask ourselves if that intervention is timely, if that is trending, and if that is trailblazing. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Dr. Dino. That was a good way of putting everything together. Ernani wanted to add something.
You know what, Jim? What I like from the output of my students, especially in journal, because I usually gave them guide questions. Then they can come up with this qualitative output. I love to read these journals of my students, excerpt from their ideas. This is a work immersion output of my students, what they have experienced. Okay, so I think this is a good idea, giving them a journal, and then later on, they don't have the idea that they can sub-bound, right, and come up with a creative output like this. So all public school teachers can adopt that kind of strategy. Aside from giving them learning activities, allow them to prepare a journal to express their ideas.
Um, just to close this, because I think the next question was something that we have asked already, and we're really saying that conceptual understanding is very important, but we don't leave behind important skills. And Dr. Dino, Winnie mentioned a while ago that return demonstration is one way of checking if they can do the skills, the hands-on skills. Rusydi and Ernani mentioned guide them through real life projects that they can do, that they can create. But we need to make sure that feedback is very, very important. One realization that I have right now, one thing that we can learn from education at this time of the pandemic, the students are not in front of us. We don't have much control. So we need to let go of control. I think it has been the idea that we can control everything, we can plan everything was really embedded in our mindset as teachers. And it's really one way of looking at. But right now, we're very much focusing on independent learning. And in independent learning, we need to build skills of flexibility, adaptability, self-regulation in our students.
Yeah.
And if we are not confident that our students can do that, I think it is telling us something that maybe we were not able to lead them to become independent learners. Right? That's one way, that's one consideration, that's one reflection that I have right now. We're very scared that they might not learn on their own. We're very scared that they cannot do this on their own. But actually, our schools should have developed or helped them, especially in the higher grades, to become independent learners. So yeah, I think that's one reflection that we can have as one education community, whether in Singapore or the Philippines, around the world. So very wonderful. The suggestions really here, the comments here are thanking you for your wonderful suggestions. There are still some questions that we would like to answer, but we will go to the next part, and on the next part we will have the panel of experts on our virtual backstage, and they will be scrolling through the questions that you have right now. So please direct your questions. If you have a question to Dr. Dino, you can just say, Dr. Dino, this is my question, or Sir Nani, or Sir Rusydi, or Ma'am Winnie. So while they are on the backstage, you can direct your questions to them, so that later on, when they come back, they know your questions. So our next part is, we've been talking about learners, or how to do everyone, and I'm just so excited to bring out a student who will be learning in distance education mode. So let's hear from what Angel Ken Yang would love to share about being a distance learner. So MJ, Rusydi, Ernani, Winnie, you will be on the backstage for now. We will bring out Angel. So there, thank you so much. Right, Angel.
I have returned.
Yes, you have returned. It's now your turn. So I hope, were you listening to the discussions a while ago? Angel?
Yes, pa.
All right. So Angel was listening to discussion.
Hi. Hello, hi.
Yeah. And you know how teachers are facing challenges on how to teach STEM, innovation, business subject. From your side, Ken, you love robotics. You love how you love working with technology. As a student right now, how are you coping with the pandemic now that you are not allowed to go out and compete in robotics?
So, a lot of people have a hard time with the pandemic, but for me, learning with the internet and staying put at home is nothing new. It really hasn't done anything to dissuade me, I guess, from robotics. There are so many things you can learn online, from like playing instruments to 3D printing. And aside from like attending robotic seminars and training courses, recently I have been learning how to make games on the Unity engine through like YouTube channels and stuff. And I also watch lots of anime. And also on YouTube, again, I have been learning how to fix my 3D printer since it always breaks.
So
Hmm.
Ken, I'm getting that, at this time of the pandemic, you're doing a lot of learning on your own through
Yes,
YouTube
actually.
videos. How do you feel about distance learning? How do you feel about what's going to happen as a student? How do you feel about your teacher being far from you, studying on your own? How do you feel about it?
Mm. Um, Pretty much like school closure. Uh, hmm. So I guess it is a bit sad since I don't really get to see all of my friends, and there have been lots of delays when it comes to parang setting up for online learning. But I really do feel like we can get through this, and the pandemic is an opportunity for us to explore what we like and learn more through online.
Ken, so you don't feel nervous about learning online, or are you excited?
Actually, I really am excited since there are so many things that I mean, like, I'm not saying that school is bad or anything, but since that we're trying to try something new, we might be able to discover so many new things on our own. And yeah, there you go.
Ken, very interesting. I think on your own, online learning is okay, but what do you miss about school?
What I miss about school probably is, first of all, the teachers and friends there. I really miss being able to see them every day, almost every day, and interact with them, have fun. And also I miss the hands-on experiments we do in school because just like a while ago, there are not too many things that we can experiment on our own because they need lab equipment that is in school.
Ken, I think very interesting that you pointed out that you also need to go to school, or you love to go to school because there are things that you can do in school that you cannot do in your home. I'm very interested with how you're doing robotics right now. Your coaches are not with you. Competitions have been tentatively, tentatively, how do you call that, rescheduled, or I don't know, postponed. How do you continue learning robotics at home?
For me, school closure did not really affect my love for robotics. All of the parts and tools I use in robotics actually are here at home since they are my personal stuff. And school closure did not affect my robotics career negatively since it gave me more time to build and mess around with my robots. I still build robots at home and for like challenges, I guess my friends and I, so me, Michael, Michael, my friend from school, Justin Rain Aguinaldo, a friend from another school, and Sir Dominic Sales, we joined the World Robot Games online. So there are still competitions going on right now, and we won the People's Choice Awards recently. The rest of the awards will be announced on July 30 when judging is complete. So
So
there.
Ken, yeah, I think that's very interesting because you're basically telling us that even at this time of the pandemic, you found more time to work on your projects, to work on your robots. Um, how do you want your teachers then to teach robotics at this time of
Mm,
the pandemic when everything is online, distance education? Should teachers give you more time to work with your robots, or should you be online always? What do you like? What's your
mm.
preference?
I hope that teachers will teach students about coding and sorry. I hope that teachers will be teaching coding and robot design online. So, first of all, it's difficult to teach physical robot building, like putting together the robots, grinding the parts down, and things like that, because it's difficult to really tell everything that's going on with the robot, how parts are interacting, and how things are put together when you don't have it in your hands. And I know this through experience, because when I asked for help from my friends and parang they're not here, we just have to take so many pictures and talk about for so long just to realize that there was this wire that didn't look like it was broken, but it was like completely removed. And second, um, hmm, a lot of beginners rely on their teachers to program their robots. So it would be a lot better if the students can be at least familiarized with coding so that they can troubleshoot any problems in the robot and make adjustments for themselves. And third, having a solid idea of what the robot should look like and knowing how to design a robot in the first place is very important for robotics, since having a solid design can make us a really good foundation for a winning robot.
Ken, I'm getting a lot from your sharing right now. You're sharing the things that you are working on. But one thing that we've been talking about a while ago with the expert panel is the importance of feedback. And Angel is actually validating that necessity from the feedback of teachers actually help learners, especially learners like Ken. Ken does robotics, and told us a while ago that he sent pictures to his friends. He talked to his robotic coach just to ask for feedback so that they can figure out the problem. So Ken, thank you for that sharing. I think that's one of my takeaways from Angel also, or Angel or Ken. I've been calling him Ken, but Angel, thank you for that sharing, and you're telling us that you really need help from teachers, feedback from teachers. So there. Thank you for that wonderful reminder, Angel. Angel, can you share to us some projects that you've been working on? Are there projects that you're working on right
Sure.
now?
So let's start off with the small one first. So this is a 3D printed Chevy Lambda Walker version 2 by the user Ekowi on Thingiverse. And so it just works like this. Let me just rotate one of the gears manually. I haven't attached a motor to this yet, but the base is complete, as you can see. So you just add the motor here and it should be able to walk. I made this for no particular reason. I just thought it would be fun. And I checked out the video online, and through the pictures and stuff, I was able to build it like this since they all came in separate parts. Took me about a week to finish. And then let's move on to the big one. So, can you see it? Hold on, let me put this here. I hope you can see that properly. Does it look good? Okay. Hi. So this is the robot that I have built recently. Its name is Backline, and pretty much the inspiration behind it is my sister is a nurse, so I wanted to build something to be able to help the frontliners. So this is Backline. So it uses UV light so that it can disinfect corridors and floors, since there are a lot down here. So I'm gonna turn it on for a while, but since UV lights are dangerous, I'm gonna close it after it boots up. Okay, it's that. Okay, now let's turn on the boards. Okay, now we put it in RC mode. Then, wait for it. There we go. So the reason why it's very slow is because it takes a bit of time for the UV lights to actually disinfect stuff. So there you go. You can go forwards, backwards, and also it takes a really long time, but it can also turn like this. Okay. I'm gonna turn it off now. Okay, so that's about it. And if we use this one, let's go closer here. This is the CNAT device. It uses a thermal scanner, and it can also be Bluetooth operated, so it can scan if people are above a certain temperature, so it can tell if they have COVID-19 or not. Over here is an alcohol dispenser, so you just go up to this. Alcohol. And over here is just a first aid kit, so if anything happens, then you can just immediately grab it and use it. Down here are the batteries. So these ones are what power the lights, and these, wait, I'll get it. So they're the batteries, they're what power the lights. And over here is the AC-DC converter. These are 24 volts DC, and this one is the 220 volts AC, I believe. Then over here, over there, here are the two boards. This one is used for controlling all of the motors and stuff, the movement, while this one is in charge of moving the alcohol dispensers. So that's about it. And aside from that, there is also a tablet mount up here. You can put an iPad here, and it's connected to a servo, so you can use it for telepresence, so that you can monitor things and do stuff. So you can monitor hallways and stuff like that without needing anyone to be there. Okay, let's just put this back down. Over here. That's about it. That took a really long time to build and many headaches because of the motors. But in the end, it is complete. Whew.
Ken, the whole time that you were showing your robots, my mouth was just open, my jaw was just like dropping, and I was just really amazed. Yeah, I think some of those comments say that it's because Ken has this access. Yes, Ken has this access, but what I really want to point out here, and thank you, Ken, for showing us, it's not really a matter of having this or that. It's realizing that we have students like Ken who are better learners, who are thriving because we are giving them these kinds of projects that are beyond paper and pen. I don't know how a paper and pen test assessment could have assessed or could have let Ken create those kinds of things. Ernani and Rusydi has been telling us a while ago, what Ken has shown us are perfect examples of maybe products that could come out from project-based learning. They don't necessarily need to involve robotics, but Ken is just a wonderful kid, a young scientist that does a lot with robotics. I don't know if Rusydi can hear us. Rusydi, maybe this is a startup that you could guide. Let me know your thoughts later. That's a guide that you can have in your program. But Ken is an example. Ken is a testament to the kind of to the kind of learner, to the kind of future scientists that we want to have in our education system, that our education system could really help grow up. Professor Diño, Winnie, Rusydi, Ernani has been pointing this out. That's why we need to go out of our comfort zone as teachers, right? Because we have students like Ken. I'm pretty sure all of our students, when they are guided, given the proper access to these tools, I'm pretty sure we can have a lot of angels. You have a lot of angels in our midst. So thank you, Angel. Thank you to your father and mother. I know that they're in the background right there.
Yes, pa,
Oh, I know
actually.
that they are there. Thank you so much for being with us, Angel. Um, Angel is a source of
Sir, may I add
inspiration.
something?
Yes, Angel.
Yes, actually, robot building isn't just about having the best parts, the best tools, the most expensive gear, because even a robot made of literal chopping boards can still win a competition. I I'm not sure if it's still built, but I do have a robot over there that we literally just took a chopping board, chopped it into pieces, put it back together, turned it into a robot, added the shield, and we won. So it really isn't about the having the best materials, though that's definitely a plus. It's about how you use all of your resources effectively, efficiently into making it into a project.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Thank you,
And
Ken. Yeah. I
having
just continue,
support from
Ken.
teachers is very important because I personally would have never made it this far without support from my peers, from teachers, coaches, and my parents. So also, if there are any parents watching here, please support your children for any hobbies they may have, because if they're truly interested in it and if they spend lots of time in it, then most likely they will succeed and reach unimaginable heights. Thank you. Sorry for cutting in for that long. Thank you a lot, sir.
It's okay. It's okay, Angel. Thank you so much. I think that has been very wonderful, and I love your closing statement. Parents, teachers, support the students on what they like to have. So I'm gonna bring in again our panel of experts just to make sure that we are complete. So Ken is here with us. What can you say, Rushidi? Is Angel Aki is Angel someone that you are very interested to work with?
Yeah, absolutely. Angel, thank you so much for your sharing. I'm so wow, amazed and inspired, by all that you've shared. So thank you so much.
All right. We have some questions. We have some questions here. I wanna. This was one of the earliest questions that I've read, and I wanna direct this to Dr. Dino. Um, someone. We were talking about lab skills and everything, and we are very much aware that there are board exams, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
how do we go about with the board exams when we feel like our students are not learning all of the things that we want them to learn, quote and unquote. Dr. Dino.
Okay. So, for example, for our professional subjects, so I do think that we can also adopt best practices from different countries. Just like, for example, right now we are actually collecting all the best practices from different countries, including the countries in Southeast Asia. And one of the best practices that I saw might help, of course, the Philippines would be the one in Brunei. So in Brunei, for their higher education programs, what they're doing is that they do theoreticals online. Then after that, for those very impossible skills that the students cannot do at home, so they have this what you called assessment week, where students are being scheduled with social distancing and of course applying several protocols for them to practice at the sites. Okay? So what they're doing is they do curriculum recalibration, thinking of what specific activity can we replace this with that. So in Brunei, they have this what you call intensive related learning experiences. So they schedule it at the last or the latter part of the semester or the school year, where the students are scheduled with social distancing and of course using or adopting several protocols where they can practice some of these skills. Because as you mentioned, Jim, earlier, so a lot are worrying about being taken care of by a doctor or a healthcare professional with who is actually a product of this kind of the pandemic. But of course, if there's a will, there's a way. There are different innovative ways on how we can do that, and the best practice from Brunei can also be adapted. And now going to the main question, in terms of the board examinations. So just to give a context, the Philippines is one of the few countries with definitely scheduled exam, and I think we can use technology for board examinations as well. It's time for us to embrace the standardized computer-based exams, just like what they're using for TOEFL and NCLEX. So it's time for us to embrace blueprints, test bank, test centers, and invest in technology because this is much cost-effective for from our government. But of course, board examination is definitely MCQs. So we can test the skills, reasoning, and responsibility of the students by means of integrating authentic scenarios that are currently happening in the world of work.
Um, Wonderful. I think that was a wonderful, and in a way that gives everyone an idea of how higher education institution are coping with what's gonna happen in terms of board exams right now, or preparing students for the board exams. Um, any other thoughts? All that I don't see much question. It's really much about Ken blowing away our audience, being being like very. I think even the experts were blown away in our private chat, for example. We're really we're really proud of Ken, Angel Ken Y Aki. Actually, I know you're being called Aki, right?
Yes, sir. That's my nickname. Angel Ken. Yeah, Aki.
Aki. Okay, so very interesting. Any
Yeah.
other thoughts that you want to share? I don't see much questions right now. Oh, there was a
Okay.
one question here. How about those who do not have access? Right? Um, how do we go about with that? Like for example, they say that what about those below poverty line, those who are not given much access? They're the one who will be suffering, and that's a reality, right? That's a reality. But what can we do? Or is it just teachers who's gonna answer that question, or are we going to demand from other people to do their own responsibilities also? What are your thoughts about that?
Jim,
Wow,
for me,
the question is really difficult.
yeah, yeah, I think, Jim, for me, the use of the learning pockets is very much useful. But of course, in addition to the learning pockets, we should also be teaching our parents on how to properly supervise our students. And earlier you mentioned control. Yes, control is not that strict, especially during the pandemic. But of course, for our teachers, we should also embrace the use of scaffolding techniques, because scaffolding is not only in person, but of course, with the development of learning packets, we can put there, of course, elements of scaffolding. In online learning, we can also integrate their scaffolding activities. So that even if the teacher is not physically there, we can feel the presence of the teacher from the modules and the scaffolding activities.
So I just want to add something. First, thank you, Aki, for sharing. I really admire your enthusiasm in sharing your experiences and your expertise in robotics. I'm happy to see that. I'm happy the way you presented it and how you explained that teachers and students should not be limited with the idea of we don't have the kit. Will that stop us from achieving our passion? No. We need to look for different ways, look for indigenous materials that will work. That's why many schools now are coming up with makerspace, right? Because in the makerspace, like Sir Jim is actually doing in Savior, they have all the indigenous materials and then they come up with projects. I think that's a good start because what we need to have is a spark of creativity, and when we have that spark, then that spark will actually generate the light that will allow our students to explore more. And I like the idea of with the chopping board, then you can come up with projects. So thank you for that, Aki. As young as you are right now, but your ideas is actually limitless. Because that's true. Creativity is our own limit. It's the only limit that we will have right now in online distance learning environment. Thank you. And as a science teacher, for me, I love experimenting. So I really suggest to our teachers out there, keep on experimenting. Don't be afraid to fail, because as much as we celebrate our successes, we need to celebrate our failures also, because that's how we learn, and that's how we improve things, right? Oh, thank you.
May I say something?
Sure, Ken.
Thank you so much. Hello, hello. Hi. Um, it really does feel amazing to be surrounded by so many smart, great people, and I really do hope that we can apply the things that have been shared here throughout all schools throughout the country. And um, just something, I guess, to add. In my school, actually, we had to take a survey on the people who didn't have proper internet connections and devices, and our school is doing their best to give those people the ability to join in on class. And when I heard it here, it's like, oh, that's interesting. So it's actually being applied. That's awesome. And I really hope that we can apply this to other schools too, because um, if we can't continue learning through the pandemic, this will be a very bad thing, since um, it's just going to be a
Yeah.
huge waste of time. And also, when it comes to failure and celebrating that, I have a burnt board over there. When I was fixing the robot yesterday to prepare it for today, I may or may not have accidentally wasted 6,000 pesos on a board by accidentally burning it. um,
That's part of it. It's part of it. Especially Ken is working with. It's Ken really is working with. How do you? I don't know the term, but he's really more into that competition where they use a lot of kits. So thank you so much, Ken, for
Yeah,
that.
that's one.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yes, Winnie.
Just to add, yes, that's true. We also need partnership, right? So if your school is actually looking for students who may be needing some support for the internet connection, yes, that's really good. Maybe it's high time, if you're in a public school, we look for partners, because our school, let's say, we're fortunate enough because our students are into one-to-one, meaning we have our mobile devices in 2012. So all our students from grade 5 to senior high school use mobile devices in the classroom. But we have our brother Rafael Donato Night High School. This is our scholarship program for the less fortunate students of the Muntinlupa city. So we provide them the tuition fee, minimal tuition fee, parang 500 for 1 year, and then most of the materials in digital in learning packets. But if they will be needing some materials like for the robotics, for coding, as much as possible, we try to get some materials of what our day school or our regular students are using, and lend them the material. So that's how we do the partnership. So I hope other schools, private schools like Xavier, will also have partnership with our public school students. Thank
All
you.
right. A few words from Ernani and then maybe from Rushidi. We've reached the part of our end, at the end of our discussion. Ernani. Ernani might not be able to. Um, Rushidi,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll just quickly jump in right now. A few things I want to share. One is remarks are more important than marks.
Okay,
Right.
Sir Jim, I would like to take this
Oh,
privilege.
Okay.
I know that there are some public school teachers who are writing us right now. that we should not rely on the materials which will be provided by the Department of Education. Okay.
Right. Thanks so much, Ernani. So just back to me. Remarks are more important than marks. So it's important to help your students to learn wherever they are. And the other thing is that students may not remember what you teach them, but they will remember how you make them feel. So you help them to build a secure, safe environment for learning. It will follow them through life, right? As you have seen, what Angel has mentioned about these teachers. So I wish all educators the best of luck in dealing with this crisis. Thank you.
All right, and I hope Ernani comes back. We've lost him. I think we have he has a problem with the internet connection. But can I just read what Ernani, because Ernani was sending this message a while ago. Ernani wants to say that at this time of the pandemic, teachers are also frontliners. Of course, we are the new frontliners in education. So Ernani just wants to say that we need to do our best to bring the best out of our students, specifically those who only rely with print-based materials. Some of the comments there was really asking, we don't have, some students do not have access on this. How do we give feedback to them and all those kinds of things? We really want to trust on the creativity of all the teachers right there. Right now is the time to experiment. Right now is the time to try all the different things that we have right now. So let's continue to reimagine how we will do education. Ernani is back. Let me just put him up. Okay. Ernani, I seem to have lost Ernani there.
Oh no.
Let me just work on this. Ernani, there. All right. Ernani, can you hear us?
Hi, I'm back. I just want to give message to teachers. Yeah, can you hear me? Hello. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to give message to the teachers, especially public school teachers who are watching right now. Let us not just rely with the tools or materials which will be provided by the Department of Education. We should always think that the best learning that we can provide to our students, which it will come from us. So let us be innovative even in this time of pandemic.
All right. So thank you so much. So I'm just very happy again to end this because we have gained so much understanding about how we can teach STEM, science,
Did you hear me,
laboratory
Sir Jim?
process, right? And we have covered, I think, the different levels. We have covered grade school. We have covered the high school, senior high school, and Rusydi has given us a perspective of how they're doing it in Singapore and his school in supporting students even at this time of the pandemic to pursue their passion projects and make them a reality. Dr. Diño has really given us a very good perspective of what's happening in higher education. That is something that we were very happy to hear about. So thank you so much to everyone. We are now at the last part, and just a reminder, I have copy and pasted the link in our comment section. It's also showing on our screen right now. Later on, after we say goodbye, I will be showing on the screen the link to the evaluation. Again, just a reminder, make sure that you put the right spelling of your name and email address because our system uses the input that you put in the evaluation for. And of course, last but not the least, Aki, thank you so much for inspiring the teachers and challenging. I think Aki is really challenged all the teachers out there. We can have a lot of Akis out there. But teachers, you're not the only one who should be responsible to this. We need to hold, or you need to call and partner with our local government units. We call on our government to continue supporting all the learners because we are all in this together. You've heard we learn as one PH, we heal as one PH, those hashtags. Now is the time to make it real. If we want to learn as one, then we involve everyone in the community. Sana hindi lang yon hashtag. I hope those are not just hashtag that we put in our post. So there, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Rusydi, stay safe in Singapore. Thank you for being with us right now. Dr. Diño, Winnie, Ernani, good luck to the distance education programs that we're having right now. Ernani, stay safe in Leyte. Dino is in Bulacan, right? MJ?
I'm in Quezon City right now.
Okay. So there. Stay safe, Quezon City. It's very alarming right now. Winnie, back in Muntinlupa.
Yes.
And Angel Aki, thank you so much. Okay, to our audience, goodbye for now. We hope to see you next week. On Saturday, we have a lecture on supporting social emotional learning on for distance education. So that's live streaming on YouTube. That's Saturday afternoon. And on Sunday, we will have a live discussion with experts who will talk about maybe supporting learners at this time of the pandemic in the different areas of being a student. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, and enjoy your Sunday.
Sunday.
Bye.